Light's a bit bright, but anyway, what I was thinking about talking on was the whole situation to do with the future. Because, I mean, for quite a while, I mean, I used to think to myself, I used to get really, really worried about the future, about wondering what's it going to look like? You know, how long have we got before the Antichrist comes around? You know, it's like, uh, so anyway, one of the things that we need to look at is that we need to understand that the whole idea of apocalypse, okay, we see a lot of apocalyptic like ideas. Like, for example, we might have 2012, or we might have scientists saying that, oh, we've only got the planet's going to diminish, and there's going to be some kind of asteroid the size of New York that's going to hit us. You know, we get things like that, but in reality, that's just propaganda from the head people, the by the scientifically controlled society, using society of using propaganda, as Bertrand Russell talked on about using propaganda to control masses, the public thinking, so people would think the same as each other, right? Um, you know, the one of the things that Zbigniew Brzezinski talked on. He was a chief advisor for Obama. He was a geopolitician, and he says that the most dangerous man in the world is a man who can think for himself. um, the governments don't want people thinking for themselves. They want the television to think for you. They want the education system to do all the thinking for you, so you don't have to actually do. You just lap it up, basically. You just regurgitate what they tell you, and anything which is outside of their scope, like religion, you will get ridiculed for it, you know, because they want, because one of the things that the Freemasons, the religious Freemasons talked on in that book called Pawns in the Game, they wanted to teach the masses atheistic materialism. Okay, atheistic materialism. Okay, that's the reason why we get things like the Big Bang or evolution taught in the schools. We get things like that because they want everybody to be atheists, right? And one of the secrets behind this is to indoctrinate them with this. It's so the public will consume more and more, which means that these government people can make more money out of the public. It's really to do with making money from the masses by teaching them atheism, and to debunk, to try and debunk anything which is supernatural. Okay, so that's just me. You know, there's lots of things that you can find in, but it's mainly the Freemasons that are doing this to the public, um, because of these high wealthy, um, high level bankers, you know, and all of these types of people. Okay, this is the kind of people that you're actually dealing with. They've got so much money they can use any form of indoctrinations, because it's religion that's at the top. You have to remember, you know, these secret societies of Freemasons. That's the reason why you'll have presidents that are maybe skull and bones secret societies. They basically learn things like that. The public cannot really make good decisions for themselves, so the government needs to make decisions for the public. Okay, I know I've got a lot of information in my head that I'm. It's just that I'm trying to get it out. I wanted people to see what's going on. Um, but yes, it's very likely that some of this information that I've looked at is very likely to be true. Very likely, you know. Especially when you know that there's so many Freemasons lodges everywhere, all over the world. So it doesn't surprise me. So our future, and then of course we learned that Zbigniew Brzezinski, he talks on that the challenge for governments is to make sure man never effectively discovers his true self. So you teach men and women atheism, so they feel like they're just an animal. So they never effectively discover the true selves, and to lock humanity into consumerist materialism. Okay? See, the highly religious type people, they don't consume, they're not obsessed with material things like the atheistic type people are. Okay. Um, so and of course, and it is, if you look at the book on Protocols of Zion, they talk on how they wanted to get rid of Godhead out of the masses, okay, and to replace it with material things. That's what they talked on, and these are Illuminati Freemasons. They are, Illuminati is, has connections with Lucifer. Okay, Freemasonry has connections with Lucifer. They teach the Luciferian doctrine, and they have Apollo, the other god, which the Antichrist will honor in his estate eventually. Both Lucifer and Apollyon, or Apollo, the all shining eye. Yeah. So anyway, one of the other things that that they were teaching on, Adam Weishaupt, who was a Jesuit, and he became a Freemason, and he created the Illuminati within Freemasonry, so it would be even more secret. And one of the things that he taught on was to break up marriages, to break up families, and to abolish marriage. Break up families and abolish marriage. That's what they wanted for the nations, okay, all over the world. So, yeah, we can expect to see more divorces skyrocketing. So how do you do that then? How do you make the nations start getting divorces? How do you do that? Well, it's easy. You change the media, because people copy the media, don't they? Instead of having the people in the media, the actors in the media, to play the character of being moral and having a nice family and looking after each other, you replace that character with different characters that promote promiscuity, bad personalities traits, argumentative traits, and the public copy it, and then they start becoming disrespectful to each other. Maybe if they get married, they get disrespectful to each other. They and then maybe get to fights. You keep showing people, the public, maybe couples arguing all the time. They can't, and then the public perceive that as, well, this is normal, and then they start to do it as well. They start to copy what they see on the television. You see, that's how you do it, and then you end up having more divorces taking place because people don't understand each other. People become more or less affectionate towards each other, less likely to bond. You see, that's what ends up happening. So that's also Mary Baxter, when she was in hell, the demon, one of the big demons that she saw down in hell, was telling the smaller demons, telling them to go up under the surface of the earth and to help break up marriages and to break up families. And that demon was getting his orders from Satan. And of course, Satan is connected to Freemasonry, the Jesuits, Lucifer, okay, the Illuminati. So Adam Weishaupt is working for Satan, teaches on getting to help through a black ops to abolish marriage and to break up families. And then, of course, there's demons in hell that are also working for Satan, and they're learning from Satan that they've got to break up families as well. So you see the hell connections and the Freemasonry connections, or Illuminati connections. It's all there. It doesn't surprise me. Also, Bertrand Russell talks on the scientific, in his book called The Scientific Outlook. He says that for the future society, I think this was he wrote about this back in the, I don't know how long ago it was. It was maybe early 1900s sometime, but he talked on that the future would have, where people would be in temporary romantic relationships will take place, and people will just kind of like go from one relationship to another, to another, to another, to another, and that would become the norm to help, and this would help to stop. So if you keep teaching people that way of thinking, they will be likely to just never get married. They just keep going from one person to another, a bit like social dancing. How when you have people change partners almost, And maybe that's a type of programming. It's like you're dancing with one partner, and then you move to another partner to dance with them. It's almost like they're doing the same psychological tricks that they're playing on, to train the public to think a certain way. So they go from one relationship to another, to another, to another, to another, to another, and maybe have kids, and then, and it becomes dysfunctional families, just as Adam Weishaupt was wanting, because he's working for Satan, you see. So these people are actually behaving the way Satan wants them to behave, okay? And of course they keep showing in movies promiscuity continually over and over and over again to get the public used to it. So it changes the public's personalities, it changes their behaviors, because you've got to remember that ancient Greeks, they used to use drama, okay? They used to use theater to change beliefs, attitudes, opinions. They were able to control people's opinions. They were able to control people through entertainment. And that's how serious this stuff is. So they want everybody to become, and of course, if people do get married, because they've got a corrupted background of fornication, there's a high chance that maybe they could fornicate again, and they could go into adultery, which could also eventually lead to marriage breakups as well. That can also help to break up families. If because I know that a lot of men have been known to sleep around with other women, and that can cause serious problems, obviously, in a marriage, if they get caught, of course. Also, one of the other things that one of the Rothschilds talked on in the book that I've got called Pawns in the Game, he talked on that we are gonna use our agents to corrupt the youth of the nations, the youth of the nations with drugs and alcohol. It's really that simple, and now we're seeing that today as well, of course. So they're trying to turn everything upside down. I'm running out of time a bit. I can talk a little bit longer. But you've got to understand that they're eroding the nations, okay? They're making the nations have their foundations completely wrecked, so they can bring in the Antichrist. Go, oh well, I can save your I can solve all your problems, right? They've got to mess up the nations as best they can, okay, so they can have more control over everybody. For example, when you weaken the nations will look to the government for help. It's like that. It's almost like they're looking for a hero. They're looking for someone to solve their problems. So it's like a secret military type technique that they're using. They've been using. One of the things that Alan Watt talked on was that one of the biggest techniques that these high level, or maybe people would use in high places, that if they wanted to get rid of a civilization, was to teach the civilization promiscuity, and that would eventually lead to a serious collapse in society, because you'd end up having dysfunctional families everywhere, and everybody will become more chaotic as well, because they won't, they'll be unstable psychologically. And these are the things that they actually use. These are the techniques to help them to eventually completely diminish a civilization altogether. It's one of the techniques they use, other than having a strong family that can think for themselves and make their own choices, and not ruled by their emotions and things like that. They're that's what creates a strong society. But if you've got everybody dysfunctional, and you've only got maybe a few people here and there that's more functional, it's going to be hard for those people living in society, living amongst a mess of people everywhere, But anyway, that's all I've got time for, and bye for now.